the big question that probably even you get, and I get at least twice a month from folks who've just exited a business or setting up a family office is, one, what do I do? Right? They've been entrepreneurs for the longest time of their lives. And so what would be the top 3 or 5 things you would tell somebody who's sitting on a sizable amount of corpus, is worried about managing it, wants to set up a family office, assuming they're at least about 100 million in net worth in terms of assets. What would be some of the things you'd tell them to look at?
So Jay, if you will allow me to back away from that number you just quoted, first of all.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, because I have discovered that there are several factors in whether you need a family office or not.
Right.
Not just the size of the amount.
Sure.
So the main problem that we have in India is that the level of erudition amongst external advisors is fairly low, and they need a lot of supervision.
Right.
So, there is a difference in cost structure if you set up a family office and if you take external advice. But this has to be weighed against 2 things.
Okay.
Number one, it has to be weighed against what sort of investment approach you want to take. Let me give you the 2 extremes of investment approach. Sure. Let's take one extremely conservative family that wants to do 100% gilts or 100% debt securities. Yeah. They say, this is my generational money.
Right.
I don't want to earn more. This is more than enough for me. I want to stick with it. And
sure,
the income that I get from it will support the next few generations and the capital need not grow.
Right.
I mean, these are very atypical of a human, but there are people like that.
No, I know a few. So it is.
Yeah, there are people like that. Yeah. Now the question is, do you really need to set up a family office even if you've got 5,000 crores? Even if you got $1 billion?
No.
You may not.
You don't.
You don't. No. The other extreme is somebody who wants to take extremely high risk and says, hey, listen, fixed income is not for me. Public markets are not for me. I have made a money in business. I think that I should support startups. I should support the startup ecosystem. I want to put 100% of my, let me be ridiculous for a minute, Jay, please.
Sure.
Just to demonstrate my point here.
Sure.
And says, I want to put all my money in startups. Now the question is that if it's a fairly large amount, how many startups will you have? Right. And you can't put 10, 20 crores in each startup. So you'll put in a crore, couple of crores in each startup. And if you put in a couple of crores in each and every startup that ever exists in your life,
right,
you'll deploy your money.
Right.
So once again, if you have 5,000 crores, you don't need a family office.
That's right. Agreed.
So it's just not about the size of the corpus. It depends on what you want to do. Now, for example, there are people who want to grow it judiciously. Those are the ones who may need a family office even for a very small corpus of maybe 500, 600, 700 crores.
Sure.
Okay. Because they are very clear that they do not mind spending significantly on a family office. And believe me, a family office does cost a lot.
Yeah.
You know it. You run a family office. I run a family office. Yeah. We know that it costs quite a lot. And, for a small amount, it can go as high as 1 to 1.5% of your corpus.
That's right.
And for a larger amount, of course, the percentage falls because the amount does not grow that sharply.
Yeah.
So these are the things that you need to balance, because see, the third aspect is that if you are able to take a large part of your corpus outside India, since we are talking about Indian HNIs and Indian HUNI families, UHNI families.
Yeah.
If you're able to take your corpus abroad, the availability of talent and availability of quality service, availability of really superb advice amongst the advisory community is so strong that the incentive to have a family office becomes evident at a much larger amount.
Right, for sure. Correct.
Whereas in India, you don't have that luxury. I mean, even if you take the best of advisory outfits, whether they call themselves private bankers, whether they call themselves wealth advisors, whether they call themselves, the latest new fad is calling them multifamily offices, which is nothing but a sell-side proposition.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just to make you comfortable that they're a family office and therefore we have to be with them. But no, they're just wealth advisors. The depth of knowledge, I have still to come across the depth of knowledge that I've come across in many good family offices.
Agreed.
I'm not saying that all family offices are good and all wealth advisors are not so good, but the preponderance is so high that it's difficult to find otherwise.